Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Kiwi Talks. My guest today is the head of CROW, New Zealand's first cybersecurity lab. I'd like to welcome Dr. Vimal Kumar. How are you doing?
Thank you, Reese. Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right? Is it Vimal?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, that's good. That's good. Does that mean anything in Hindi?
Yeah, it does. There's a slight change in pronunciation.
Okay.
It's Vimal with a short E.
Vimal.
Yeah.
Vimal.
Yeah. But I don't mind as long as you can identify me.
Well, hey, it's all good. I have a partner who's Indian, so I should be pronouncing this stuff right. So Vimal, was it?
Yeah.
Vimal. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And what does it mean in Hindi?
It means pure.
Pure. Oh, well, that's like the perfect name, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. So in regards to cybersecurity, which is obviously a big thing that impacts the entire world, how did you go about getting into it?
It's not a very interesting story.
I'm sure you can make it interesting. Or I'll make it sound interesting.
Okay. So I took this cybersecurity course or paper when I was an undergrad in India.
Okay.
And I really liked it, got hooked to it, and spent quite a lot of hours pouring into that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had this brilliant idea, a light bulb moment, and I wrote up four pages. Okay. And then I took this to the whole write up to my professor, who just shot me down.
Why? Why did he shoot you down?
His exact words were, "This is crap."
Those were his exact words.
Yes. And now that I look back at it, it indeed was crappy. But
What was crappy about it?
It was something very rudimentary, which a 20-year-old student who had seen cybersecurity for the first time would think of.
Yeah.
But I could have done with a little more encouragement at that point of time, I think.
As you should when you're that young.
Yeah. So that was the first sort of tryst with cybersecurity. So after I graduated, I worked for a bit, which was, my work was not in cybersecurity. It was in mainframes, which is really old technology at this point. And then I decided I want to do a PhD. But cybersecurity wasn't on my mind at that point of time. I also liked networking. Wireless networking and stuff, and because if my professor had encouraged me, I would have probably gone towards that space. But I was more inclined towards networks. So I was applying for a place for a PhD in US. And the good thing about US education system is that if you, after your undergraduate, if you want to do a PhD, you can skip the whole master's part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. You could do that here as well, as long as you have done an honors degree.
Okay.
Yeah. So I applied for a PhD, and so I applied to quite a few places, and this particular professor at this particular university said, "Hey, you are interested in your application says wireless networking and that stuff, but I have a project which is not exactly wireless networking, but wireless networking and security."
Oh, wow.
And and I'd said that's pretty cool, and I jumped on it. So that's how I sort of got into security, but that wasn't really cyber security at that point. It was more wireless security or wireless sensor.
So when you say wireless security, what do you mean exactly?
So cybersecurity is a very general and broad term, right? So you can have various different parts, various different types of security in it. So you can have your computer security, you can have network security, you can these days we talk about IoT, Internet of Things. You can have security of Internet of Things. So you can have various different, and while you can think of all of this as cybersecurity, there are certain aspects of each of these which are different from the others.
Okay.
So my focus was more on this wireless network security.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was very theoretical. So that is what I did until I finished my PhD. That was in 2013. After I finished my PhD, I got a job as an assistant professor.
And where was this?
University of West Florida. It's a pretty cool place.
Yep.
So that was when I actually began exploring and getting more into cybersecurity in general as people understand it, rather than a specific part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the US, there's a lot of push from the government to have more cybersecurity education at the university level. We don't see here that much in New Zealand, but in the US, there's a big push. So I was at this very small place at a very small university, but we had at that point of time, we were developing a government certified curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to be a part of it, and that's basically where I got into cybersecurity as people generally understand it.
Okay. Yeah. So you said that that America, obviously there's a big push for that. Would that be because of defense, I suppose, or military?
It's everything, actually. So starting from the grassroots level, where you are talking more about protecting general businesses, small businesses, and people, average person, protecting their systems, protecting personal information and things like that. Starting from there to really looking into, say, things like malware, analyzing malware and viruses and worms and that kind of stuff. From there to even offensive technologies, and then more defensive technologies and all that stuff. So they're putting a lot of money into cybersecurity at every level, because I think they know that this is something that is going to be really big, 5 to 10 years down the line.
So malware, is that kind of a infant technology though, because they have much more what's the word, I suppose, the better ways of hacking or obtaining data?
It's everything is connected, right? So when thinking from a hacker's point of view, when a hacker wants to get information from you, or if you think about somebody doing it at a larger scale, a nation state, a rogue state, who is trying to get some data, from a government or a large company, whatever it is, they don't care what means they use, as long as the end goal is achieved, and the end goal is to collect information, collect data. Right now, how do you achieve that end goal? How do you collect information? You can do simple things, as if you're collecting information about a person, you can just see if there's information available on social profiles, social media, or information available about them in general on internet. Right? We make a lot of forum posts every day. You get stuck somewhere, you're looking to do something, post it on a relevant forum. I have this problem. This is me. I was trying to do this, and help me. I'm stuck here. Mm-hmm. Right? We do that all the time. But what that's also doing is that's you're giving out a lot of course, you want people to help you, and that's why you're giving out a lot of information. But that information can also be used by other people for nefarious purposes. Right? Now, hackers don't care whether they are using very sophisticated, intelligent means to collect information, or they are using these rudimentary techniques of just, collecting information from social media and profiles and stuff like that, as long as they get the information. And so they rely on a number of different tools.
Right.
starting from just simple trying to see if there's something available on your social media profile.
So would that be... So even if there's not that much information available, they'd be able to piece information together from little parts? I
Yeah.
suppose the similar thing to what National did with the Treasury.
Yeah. So if you have, and that's something that is really important to understand, that even though you might not have all the information about yourself at one place, we can always, or anybody can always collect all these different pieces of information from a lot of different places and put them together and create a very detailed picture about you. A lot of people don't understand that, and but that's really important.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, do you advise people not to post things on social media?
I do.
What are the things that you should absolutely not post on social media besides the obvious stuff like bank accounts and bank account or a credit card number or anything?
So one of the
or
things
any
that
type of family stuff.
Yeah. So I was looking at something yesterday, and we talk about all this. There are all these data leaks and all this stuff and everything.
Yes.
And one of the main malicious uses of all this hacked information by, let's say, quote unquote, attackers or hackers is they use this information for ransom. Okay, so they're using this to blackmail people, and so I think every individual has to decide for themselves what is it about them that can be used for blackmailing.
Right.
Right.
Would you know offhand how many people would pay the ransom?
No, I don't have an estimate of that.
Yeah.
But the statistics that I was reading said about 41% of the attackers are using your data to blackmail you or to get ransom. So that's a pretty big chunk. And a lot of we hear about the scams, right?
Yeah.
And even that information that I'm talking about, it may not be used to blackmail you directly, but it can be used in a scam to make the scam seem not fake.
Can you give me a specific example?
So, okay, let's take the example of blackmail, right? There was this webcam blackmail going on a couple of years ago, where people will, or the attackers, I think we should settle on a term, which is always...
Okay, we'll use one term, so then people who are listening or watching this understand.
Let's call them attackers.
Okay, we'll call them attackers.
Okay. So what they would do is they would send you an email saying, hey, we have this information on you, and we have a video recording of you doing certain activities, and if you don't give us money, we're going to make it public.
That sounds like an episode of Black Mirror. Have you
may-
seen Black Mirror?
No, I have not.
Okay, there's an episode in Black Mirror where anyone who's watching, I'm sorry, this is probably going to have spoiler material, but there's an episode where a kid, his sister borrows his laptop, and then it ends up with all these ads and stuff on it. So he installs this antivirus thing that's actually malware. And anyway, he ends up watching some child pornography, and his webcam is on, so the whole thing is filmed, and then they use that to hold him for ransom to get him to do all this stuff.
Right. So...
And yeah, I mean, that stuff is obviously relevant now. It actually happens.
It's not... when was this episode aired?
Maybe a couple of years ago. Black Mirror, traditionally, you'd probably like it because it deals with future technology.
I have heard about it, but I haven't got a chance yet to actually...
definitely watch it at some point. And maybe if you come back on the show again, we can talk about it in more detail because I think you'd really enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy it, and some of the stuff is very relevant now. Some of it is obviously stuff that will happen in the future, but yeah, it's. I have heard of ransoms and things of that nature happening.
So, this is not far-fetched, what you're talking about from Black Mirror. It's happened. And what happens is, in most cases, the attackers, they don't actually have anything on you, but they pretend to have it, right?
Okay.
Now, how do they do that? So if I come to you, say I'm an attacker, okay, I'm trying to blackmail you, right? And I tell you, hey, Reese, is this your email address? I send you an email. Hey, is this your email address? You would say, yes. Who is it, right? And then I will tell you, is this your password? And it is your password, right? And so you will, of course, get startled, right? And then I'll tell you, see, this is your email, this is your password. And I have a lot of other information on you as well. I have a webcam recording of you doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And so if you, if you want me to keep my mouth shut, I need money.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I don't have all those things. All I had is your username and password. And from that, I'm pretending to have a lot more information on you.
How much would people ask for a ransom for? How much money do they hold people to? Do you think would it be in the thousands? Tens of thousands?
These people are clever, right? So so they're not going to ask for something that you can flat away say, hey, I don't have anything, right? So they do research to maximize their chances, right?
Right.
And so they will try and come up with a number that they think you can, by perhaps stretching your means, you can come up with.
And would their research be obtained, the research information, would that be obtained through social media more than likely?
Most likely, yeah. So the way they can get your email address and password is, we keep hearing about all these leaks. So yesterday there was the ANU leak. Did you come across it?
No, can you?
The Australian National University.
Okay, what happened there?
So they discovered that their database was compromised,
right?
And that compromised means information about information going back 19 years, which affects about 200,000 staff and students, has been compromised.
How would that information be obtained? Passwords and all that nature. How would somebody obtain someone's password?
Right. So there are many ways of going about it, actually. So if I am, say, okay, let's say you are the good guy, I'm the bad guy. Let's go with this for the next few minutes.
We can go with that. I like that.
So I'm the attacker. So you work in IT of a particular organization. Right. You handle all this stuff. You handle the databases. Of course, as users, we see the nice graphical user interface where we enter our information. But at the back end, there's a lot of stuff. There's databases and all that stuff where all that information is. And there is a team, a group of people in every organization that handle all that to make it run smoothly. Those are the people that we call when something is not working. And they have access to everything. Right? They're the people under the hood who have access to everything, who are, if something breaks, they are fixing it. And because they fix it, they need to have access, right? Now, so they are what we call privileged user in the cybersecurity or computer science terminology, because they have a lot of access. If one of their accounts gets compromised, this is a very, very common way of hacking into and getting information. You try and get or hack into the account of a privileged user or an IT person. So once you get access to their account, then you can use that email address and password or the user ID in general and password to access everything else.
So IT people are pretty much the gatekeepers, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So they are the gatekeepers, and those they are the target a lot of times.
So it could be pretty detrimental to a company if the IT guy does something silly, has an off day.
Yeah, and we're all humans.
Yeah,
We expect IT people to know more, but human people make mistakes, and yes, we need to be more vigilant as IT people, but sometimes mistakes are made, and they will be made.
Would IT ever be automated in terms of being controlled by an AI, do you think?
Will it be fully automated? I don't know the answer to that, but a lot of stuff is automated, and we still if we keep on automating more and more and more stuff, but we keep needing more and more people for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I suppose because it opens up other areas where someone can work or do a different job, or maybe they're looking after the AI that looks after the AI.
Yeah, and that's actually even more dangerous.
Yeah.
So and so the way and again, this is something that has happened before. So I'm talking from previous case studies. My information is coming from previous case studies. So one of the ways of luring an IT person or basically anybody is phishing.
Yeah. So I've heard of this term.
Yeah.
So it's not fishing as in the traditional fishing, as in out on a lake with a fishing rod, fishing for, I don't know, salmon or tuna or something. This is PHISHING fishing.
Right.
Right. Do you mind explaining to the listeners and viewers what that is?
So phishing is it's phishing for information, right? So you are in some way still phishing. So the way and we don't get phished as often as much as we used to before. But what happens is you get an email, okay, from an attacker, again, me. So you get an email from me, and I'm pretending to be someone, okay? So I'm pretending to be your friend, okay? So say you have a friend, let's say Bob. And so Bob sends you an email, but it's not coming from Bob, it's actually coming from me. And the email says, "Hey, Reese, I found something interesting. You might be interested in this, and there's a link in the email." Okay, so you click on the link, and that link actually takes you to some website. So say you have an account on New Zealand Herald. New Zealand Herald started paywalling.
Yeah, I've seen that, but there's a way to already bypass it.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people are doing that. New Zealand Herald, you need to up your game seriously.
So say you have an account, you are one of those people who are actually paying for it. So you say you have an account on it. So the link takes you to the website, and you log in. But it's a fake page. It's not an actual page. It's a fake New Zealand Herald page, and which actually is my webpage, not New Zealand Herald's webpage. But I've created this fake one to look exactly like New Zealand Herald's.
So it's a replica.
It's a replica.
But you'd be able to tell that it's not the exact thing by the web link.
There are cues, yes, that you can, but some people still fall for it because it's you have to be aware of this, and you have to know what cues you're looking for, such as the URL, the padlock, and stuff like that.
I'd imagine a lot of the older generation would not be aware of it.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, and they are they're the demographic that mostly falls for it. So that's phishing, right? So now you click on the link, it takes you to a replica or a fake website. You enter your username and password, and the username and password, instead of going to New Zealand Herald, comes to me. I have your username and password, and if you happen to be an IT person, I have the keys to the kingdom.
Oh my gosh, that's scary. That's scary. I was telling you this about this on the phone, where I posted something on Marketplace to sell, and then someone from Canada wanted to buy it, and he offered to pay me an additional $200 for this item if I posted it to Florida, ironically enough. And immediately it was a bit of a red flag for me, but I still gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, okay. And then I got an email. He messaged me saying, you should have an email. And I'm like, no, I don't have an email. He's like, check your spam folder. And I'm like, okay. Check my spam folder, and there's an email saying your funds will be put into your account once the item is sent, which was so dodgy. And I saw the email account, and it wasn't even from. It was because usually when you get something from PayPal, it's service.intl@paypal.co.nz. This was not that. This was service.intl345 at, and it wasn't even at PayPal. So I emailed PayPal and I'm like, is this legit or is this something dodgy? And they're like, no, this is dodgy. And so I kind of took a screenshot and I sent it back to the guy and I'm like, shame, yeah, getting me. He's like, no, it is me. I'm like, no, it's not you.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine he's probably scammed a lot of people, that guy.
Yeah.
Easy.
That is unfortunate, actually. How many people get scammed by that?
Yeah, well, I think in New Zealand as well, as we're too trusting and we're too relaxed.
We are, yeah. Both of those are the reasons.
I remember Philip at where I met you at the security, whatever it was, a security event, I guess, where Philip Whitmore was saying New Zealand is probably one of the worst countries in terms of how laxed our security is.
Definitely. And you brought up both of those reasons. We first of all think we have this general feeling that we are so far away that we are immune to what's happening in the world, and we get lulled into this false sense of security. Right? So that's one of the reasons. The other one is that we are trusting, and that I mean that is human nature, which actually and. We are more trusting of people than some other places, but that is the exact thing, the exact nature of humans that the attackers make use of.
I'm not sure if you know anything about this, or I'd just be keen to get your opinion on it, in terms of Huawei, in terms of their infrastructure for 5G here. Are we overreacting in terms of what could possibly go wrong, or do you think it's appropriate what we're doing in terms of is it the GCSB? Is it?
Yeah. See, we don't have all the facts, but there are connections, right? Huawei has connections to the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
Right, and Chinese Communist Party is doing a lot of surveillance, which their point of view is that if you do this wide-scale surveillance, it helps in maintaining law and order. Right. And that's true. That is true, right? But the flip side is when you're doing this large-scale surveillance, you are collecting information on your citizens, and that information can be used. If you're not open about it, you can use it any way you want, not just for law and order, right?
Well, they do that already in China, don't they?
Yeah,
they have all that surveillance technology that monitors them 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and they already have that technology. They're implementing it. They're using it.
Yeah,
and with 5G. It's a communication technology. I'm calling you, you're calling me, or I'm on my phone, or I'm browsing. Everything is going through their network, and they are connected to the Chinese Communist Party. So we don't have any evidence of any wrongdoings, but there are connections that we can make, and that is alarming.
That's fair enough. So we've obviously talked about cybersecurity. How did you end up in New Zealand? Where does that fit in? How did you end up here? Because you're in Florida.
Yep.
A lot of people love Florida. I have not been there. I am supposed to go there next year. But, so how did you end up here in New Zealand, and particularly in Hamilton?
Well, so I've talked about this briefly with you.
Yeah.
So I was in the United States for about 7 years, and although I was in Florida, I was in the part of Florida which is in makeup and in general sense very un-Florida-like.
Very superficial?
Not superficial. So when you think of Florida, you're thinking of Orlando. You're thinking of Miami.
Yes,
you're
that's
thinking
what I'm
of
thinking.
Key West.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Florida obviously is still a big state.
It is, but it's a very big state. The part of Florida that I was in was a 9-hour drive away from Miami.
Okay, so that's quite far away.
That's really far
That's
away.
like driving from Auckland to Wellington.
Yeah.
Or Hamilton to Wellington, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, but you're driving about 70 miles an hour. So it's really far away. And the part, so that was Pensacola. The city itself is really great.
Okay.
But the general sense of it is that it's a very conservative red state. So I like the people that I was working with, but not the general sort of...
and all the politics and
Yeah.
all that jazz.
Yeah.
You didn't want to move to another part of America?
I could have, but I wasn't very set on what I just want to, be in United States, or I want to go back to India. I was open to going everywhere, or anywhere. I found a good opportunity. So I was looking to move from there. So I was the place I was in is it's called Pensacola.
Okay.
And it's actually a very lovely, nice little town.
What's the population? Do you know?
It's about the same size as Hamilton.
Okay.
But it's spread.
And we consider Hamilton a city as opposed to a town. Yeah.
Well, that's the Indian in me.
Yeah, well, hey, I've been to India, so I know. I went to Mumbai. I know what a city is like there. So, yeah, it's understandable. So I get the perspective.
Yeah. Well, in the US, every place is a city. Okay.
Or technically, because a city is defined by a population more of 50,000 people, was it?
Not quite. See, I was so the place I was doing my PhD in. The university was in a place or a city, Rolla.
Yeah.
The city's population was about 15,000. It was still a city. I've driven a lot across the United States, and I've traveled through places, population 3,000.
And it's considered a city.
It's a city.
So what do they define as a city?
I haven't looked it up, but it's really amusing.
Because I'm sure I read it somewhere. Or maybe it's just New Zealand's way of what they consider a city. But yeah, I don't know.
So, yeah. So when I say town, that's the Indian in me.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was, it's really, if you go there, if you're planning to go to Florida, it's worth visiting that part of Florida. So there's Pensacola, and then there's another small city, about 100,000 people. I forgot the name, but they have absolutely lovely beaches there, white sand beaches.
Yeah, well, I've only been to Seattle, and that was not known for beaches. It was pretty cold when I was there. So, yeah.
No, Pensacola, if you want to visit, it's amazing. But I was looking to move from there, and I saw an opportunity in New Zealand, Waikato. I came here for an interview, and really loved the people in the department.
Did you know much about New Zealand before you came here?
A little bit, not a lot.
More than Lord of the Rings?
More than Lord of the Rings, yes.
Okay, that's good. When I went to America, that's all they knew, just Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings.
And the good thing was when I came here to visit for the interview, it was in the beginning of summer.
Oh, right. Well, this is interesting because I would imagine going from India, New Delhi, because New Delhi gets quite hot, I imagine, into the high 40s.
Yeah, so I was talking to my parents yesterday, and or was it the day before yesterday, and they said it's 47 degrees.
That's insane. I mean, when I went there, it wasn't even peak season in terms of the heat, and it was in the 30s, and it was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine what summer is like there. But so you went from India, and then obviously you've gone to Florida, which is obviously also, it gets quite hot there as well.
No, so I went from India to Missouri, which is the
Oh, right.
Midwest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would not be as hot.
Um, you would think so,
Really?
but it gets really cold in the winters.
How cold? What we
The
talking?
coldest I've seen has been -20.
-20.
Yeah, because the polar vortex.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The polar
so-
vortex. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
That
the-
hit Chicago recently.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the polar vortex it hits Chicago, then goes to hits Iowa as well, and the tip hits like the middle part of Missouri where the Rolla is. So Rolla actually is sort of the last or the southernmost area that the polar vortex hits.
Okay.
So yeah,
Was that a shock to the system to go from, because New Delhi wouldn't get that cold, I would imagine.
yeah, the first year. No, so New Delhi is very much like Hamilton actually. A lot of fog.
Well, it's
some-
inland city.
It's an
Is it?
inland city,
Yeah.
but because of its location, you get a lot of fog and gets reasonably cold in the winters, in the nights. On once a year, the coldest night could be 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been to Mumbai, and I did not like it, mostly because of the pollution and the smell and stuff. But obviously I will be going back to India next year. Should I go to New Delhi if I do not like Mumbai?
If you don't like, well,
I have heard the architecture and
yeah,
is very, very,
yeah.
very good in New Delhi.
If you don't like dust,
But dust is everywhere in India. That's not the south or the north, isn't it? Well, in the center.
it's worse than New Delhi.
It's worse in New Delhi.
Yeah.
Well, isn't...
Because with Mumbai, you get a lot of rains, right? So the dust settles down, at
Okay.
least sometimes. But New Delhi doesn't get a lot of rain, so dust just stays in the air.
Because I remember when I was there that I read in the paper, I mean, I couldn't read what it was saying, but I did read the headline. It said something about New Delhi's pollution, trying to drop the pollution dramatically because it's quite bad there.
they've taken a lot of steps, but the main problem is dust. So I visited last year, and I could feel the dust. So if the locals can feel the dust, you definitely can.
Well, it was quite... I remember when I went, it was quite dramatic in terms of coming from here and then going there. It would, as soon as I got off that plane at Mumbai airport, holy crap. It was just whoosh.
So
The heat and the dust, you could just feel it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would, if I had to recommend anyone, I would recommend people to sort of avoid the middle part of India because it gets really dusty.
I've heard the south and the north is quite beautiful.
The south is good, and the extreme north is also good.
Yeah, because that's near the Himalayas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, avoid the middle part. But that's again, you may not want to because there are a lot of stuff to see as well. The architecture.
Well, India is a massive place.
Yeah.
So I think I've seen 2% of it.
The western part is pretty lovely as well. The desert.
Yeah. What is it called? Rajasthan.
Rajasthan.
Yeah. So my partner's from Gujarat, from that state. And obviously her city is Baroda or Vadodara or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you use. I don't know which one.
We keep
India and the
flipping.
British. Yeah. But we are planning to go next year. And I think she said she wanted to take me to Rajasthan. Mostly because she's like, I don't think you'll enjoy the south because you see all the nature stuff here in New Zealand, but you don't see deserts in New Zealand. So...
So one of the places that you might want to visit in the south is Kerala. So
Sorry, what's it called?
Kerala.
Kerala.
Yeah.
And whereabouts in the south is that?
So it's deep south, but the western part of it.
Okay.
Right, and that's very different Yes, there is greenery, but very different kind of greenery. Yeah. So there are mountains, and that's where all the black pepper comes from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
So yeah, mountains and lots and lots of coconut trees.
Okay.
So it's very tropical.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So sorry, you settled here in Hamilton, and now you're working for Crow.
So I'm working for the University of Waikato.
Yeah.
The University of Waikato has a computer science department. The computer science department has a cybersecurity lab.
And that's what Crow is.
That's what Crow is.
What does Crow stand for?
So Crow stands for the Cybersecurity Researchers of Waikato.
Okay. I went on the website and I was trying to find out exactly. I'm like, is this even an acronym? I don't know if it's an acronym or not, but okay, so that's good to know. Okay, so in terms of what you do at Crow, you probably can't get into specific details for obvious reasons. But what would you and your research team, I suppose, do on a day-to-day basis? Are you just looking at different security techniques?
Yeah, so we largely divide our work into 4 different categories.
Okay.
So there is cloud security, right? So cloud computing is everywhere these days. Everything that you interact with is using some sort of cloud computing.
Yeah.
Whether it's Facebook or whether it's Amazon or whether it's Trade Me or Netflix. Everything. And so we heavily look at cloud security. So before I started, the Crow Lab was headed by Dr. Ryan Coe, who's now...
I've seen him, actually. I was actually thinking of probably contacting him to see, because is he doing something similar to you now, or is it something different?
So he is not in New Zealand at this point. Yeah.
Was he? He's Chinese. Was he Chinese? Chinese guy.
He was Singaporean.
Singapore. Oh, from
Yeah,
Singapore. Okay.
yeah.
My apologies.
So he's in Australia right now.
Okay.
He's at the University of Queensland.
Right.
Yeah.
I think his name's still on the University of Waikato website.
He is still in some capacity involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have a big project that he brought in when he was here called Stratus, and that specifically looks at cloud security. So
sorry, what was that? Stratus.
Stratus.
Okay.
Yeah. And that specifically looks at cloud security. So we collaborate with teams from University of Auckland, Unitech. We're collaborating with the Cloud Security Alliance, which is a sort of a worldwide organization, and the organization creates standards and looks at cloud security in general all over the world.
Right.
We have advisors from the industry, so Gallagher and other places, and we have a lot of other industry partners as well that we're working with, and we have developed tools and we have developed technologies that we are now taking on to the startup sort of stage.
Okay.
Yeah. So all the partners are doing their bit, and so this was a government-funded project,
okay.
and it's coming to its end now. So the output that we have created are these different technologies that can now be taken on and created into startups and can benefit New Zealand and the economy, basically.
When you say different technologies, can you get into specifics, or are you not allowed to say at this point in time?
I can talk about some of the stuff. So one of the things that we are working with is with one of our Hamilton-based partners, CTech Technologies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen them. I don't know what they were, but yes, I have seen that building. Yes.
Right. They've just moved into a new building in Te Rapa. They used to be around on Anglesey Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they work in industrial control systems, right? So you have these big plants, milk processing plants, or places like that.
Okay.
Right. Or even brewing plants, right? So they now, of course, there's a lot of human effort that goes into creating anything, but there's also a lot of machines that are controlled by humans, right? So we call those machines industrial control systems. That's what CTEC creates. So when you say industrial control system, there are a couple of parts to it. One is the actual mechanical part, and one is the controlling part, which is more electronic and sort of computerized stuff.
Right.
Which the operator uses to control the mechanical part, like a centrifuge or a boiler.
Okay.
And so we are so one of the products that that Stratus has created and which has come out of Crow is we are working with CTEC to integrate that security product into, or integrate that technology into industrial control systems and come up with something which is suited for industrial control system security, because you can see how important this is, right? So one of the biggest companies in New Zealand is Fonterra, which relies heavily on their industrial control systems when they're processing milk. So it is really important that all of that is protected, and the same happens with various other industries as well. And so this is a very important area of cybersecurity, and so we're working with our partners to take these technologies that we have created and develop them into something that we can then further license or sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was reading, I think on Stuff a couple of weeks ago, about how they're trying to make the Waikato the Silicon Valley of New Zealand.
Yep.
Would you agree with that? Would you say no? Can you see the potential of that happening?
Well,
with all this technology, I mean, these startups.
There is potential.
Yeah.
There is definitely potential. And when we want to aim high, right?
Yes.
We're always overshadowed with Auckland right there, a couple of hours away. But there is a lot of talent in Waikato, and there's always this big brain drain to Auckland mostly, and some to Wellington, because we can't.
Well, we don't have the
retain.
infrastructure.
We don't have the infrastructure. There are companies, but a lot of times not visible, right? And we see a lot of times that the companies in Waikato are taking on people from Auckland while we already have the talent. And so the whole, yes, there's a lot of talent available. There's a lot of, there are industry in Hamilton and Waikato region as well. And the whole, so this, you probably heard this in the Tech Week thing.
Possibly.
Yeah. And so the idea is, of course, we want to aim big, Silicon Valley of New Zealand. And also, by putting this out there, we want to tell people that we already have a lot of stuff here that people don't know about. So let's make that more visible.
Okay. Yeah. I do think over time, the gap between Auckland and Hamilton, well, I feel the talent pool will kind of, fuse in some ways. Well, they're working on this train, but that's going to be terrible. But at least initially, but I think they can enhance one another.
Yes.
Because Auckland is very expensive to live, and obviously it's and a lot of industries are moving from Auckland down these ways because of, well, one, lack of land, and two, it's just very expensive.
That is true, and we want to harness that, and if possible, have the reverse brain drain from Auckland.
Yeah. Do you know about there's an inland port that will be built?
Yes.
Opposite. So I would imagine that would probably enhance the University of Waikato.
Yeah.
And in terms of the talent pool.
Yes. So I'm not sure exactly what the number was, the number of jobs that we hope will be created. But that's a really cool thing. Looking forward to it when it gets done.
Yeah. So in terms of future technology that you see on the horizon, Is there anything in particular that fascinates you, or you're looking forward to, or you're horrified by?
There are a couple.
Okay.
So one of the technologies is Internet of Things. Okay.
I have heard this term. I don't know exactly what it is.
So, and that's so one of the areas that I talked about that we work in is cloud security, and the other one that we work in is the Internet of Things security, and this is a particular area that I specifically work in, and I think it has a lot of potential. So, Internet of Things is basically your everyday things connected to the internet.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Now,
So are you talking your fridge and your oven and all that stuff?
So
Or are you talking about
a lot of times when people think about or when people start talking about IoT, Internet of Things, people, because I was talking to Stuart and Camille from Breeze FM this morning.
Oh, yes.
And so they started talking about Internet of Things, and the first thing that comes in everybody's mind is a toothbrush, or internet-connected toothbrush, or an internet-connected refrigerator.
Well, I saw that yesterday at Harvey Norman. That's what
and that is exactly what we were talking about. The stuff at Harvey Norman, you can know your brushing patterns and get more efficient in brushing. So, but those are mostly gimmicks, right? But this stuff can be really useful as well. So, one of the things that I find which is currently useful is the smart light stuff, right?
Is it some type of LED technology?
Yeah.
I saw because they're putting them already in some of the lights within Hamilton.
Yeah, you can buy them for your home as well.
So when you say smart lights, what do you mean exactly?
So these are LED bulbs, basically.
Okay.
And anything that is smart basically has a chip attached to it where you can control it wirelessly in some way.
Oh.
Right. So you have your bulb in this room, in your studio. You can change the color. You don't have to go to the switch. It's really convenient. So you can just do it from your phone.
Okay, so would there be a person in Hamilton that would have access, could control theoretically all the lights, all the LED lights from one
No. So this is I'm talking about for every you can buy smart lights from Harvey Norman or
Yeah,
right, and you can install them in place instead of your your tube light or your bulb. You install the smart light. And
but what I mean is, so say you bought 10 smart lights.
Yeah.
You'd be able to control all 10 of those smart lights from your phone.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so you could. So you said you could change the color.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rather from white, you could change them all to yellow at the same time.
Yellow, pink, blue, whatever it is.
Ah.
Right? And so you can have a disco going on.
I wonder if I'm not sure if you've ever been to Sydney, but they have like a light festival there. I'm wondering if that would incorporate smart lights.
So at the what's that? The Opera House.
Yeah, the Opera House. Yeah.
Right. So they use the same principle, but instead of instead of doing it at a grand scale like they do, they're giving the power of doing something similar to every individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you know if it's more cost saving to use those lights as opposed to, or would they be more expensive because of the wireless nature of them?
These are LED lights.
Okay.
So LED in general is more is cheaper in the long term.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But they do cost quite a lot because they come with the connectivity to your phone, whether it's through Bluetooth or whatever it is.
Okay. Would you know offhand how much of Hamilton City has incorporated those smart lights?
It's a very, it's a personal thing, right? It's not about the city. It's you using it in your home.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I wouldn't really have that figure. So that's one of the things. The other thing is about having smart street lighting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that can actually save councils a lot of money.
How so?
So you have street lights going on throughout the night,
Yeah.
even when they're not needed, right? So if the street light was smart, which means that hey, you have these 4 street lights. Of course, with street lights, you want to have a lit up area, and that's a deterrent to crime, in some ways. So, but the street lights, they just keep they are on throughout the night, and they use a lot of energy. But if you could have a system where the street light is only on when it's needed and switches itself off when it's not needed, that will save a lot of money.
You say when it's not needed. Well, the only times I would think it would not be needed would be during the day. When it's on at night, because aren't they used when you're driving your car so you know?
Yeah, so if there is someone so there's a street, right? There's nobody on the street. The street light is still on. You need the street light when somebody comes, when somebody's driving there or somebody's walking there. That's when you need the street light.
So so if you're on a street, let's say, one person drives down every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Could you have it set so it goes on only when it senses that someone's driving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's that's the smart stuff.
I'm supposed to be having the mayor on here at some point. So I might actually ask him if he knows how much that saves in terms of cost.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of councils are looking at it. I'm not sure how much Hamilton City Council has looked in it, but I know that it's been done at a lot of places around the world.
Yeah.
So that's something that comes under IoT.
Okay.
Right. So Internet of Things, yes, we can. There's a lot of stuff out there which is very gimmicky, good for amusement. But such as
the toothbrush.
toothbrush or the smart fridge.
Yeah.
But there's something that's there are things that are really useful.
So you've said that the smart lights and so forth, but in terms of stuff that scares you?
So, well, see, all of this stuff, right?
Well, it can be used for both good and,
yeah. So, and that's the case with basically every technology.
Yes.
Right? We create technology for the public good, but there are always going to be people who are going to find that bit that can be used to make the technology do what it was not supposed to do.
So when you hear about a new technology, does your mind automatically go to the optimist point of view or the skeptical point of view? Do you look at the oh no, this isn't good, or do you look at it from, oh wow, this can be used to this and this is great?
So I have 2 hats, right? So one is the technologist hat. And so when I have that hat on, I'm looking at, hey, cool new technology, 5G or blockchain or artificial intelligence. What can we do with it? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I have my other hat, my cybersecurity hat, which is saying, hey, 5G, how can I break it? Okay.
Would you know how to hack something? Do you know anything about hacking? I thought about getting into hacking at one point.
Okay.
Not so I could actually hack people, but just so I knew how people might try and do it to me.
Exactly, yes.
But at one point I was like, do I want to do that? I might get tempted. I don't know.
So, well, hacking isn't really... when most people think of hacking, they think of really,
well, they probably
somebody down in their basement.
Well, they probably get it from films, right?
Yeah,
some person
on the computer going
yeah,
da 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 da, and then green screen and green text and all that
stuff.
Yeah. But hacking involves a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and a large part of hacking is gathering information, and I talked about this in the beginning of our discussion.
Yeah.
Right, and that gathering information can be done by any means possible. It doesn't have to be sophisticated tools.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are doing hacking are not very sophisticated, smart, clever, technical people. They know just enough technology.
Okay. So do you know much about the dark web or deep web or whatever it's called?
I know some. Yeah,
Are they the same thing? Dark web, deep web?
No, they're not the same
They're
thing.
not the same thing. Okay. All right. So what's the deep web and what's the dark web?
Okay. So the dark web is basically the part of internet that you don't have access to. Okay. Such as...
so if I wanted to access the dark web, like a web browser like Tor?
No.
Okay.
So
that's something else entirely.
No.
Okay.
That is deep web.
Oh, that's deep web.
Yeah.
Okay.
So dark web is just a part of internet that you don't have access to. Okay.
So how do people get
now
access
there
to it?
are a lot of parts of internet that you don't have access to. I don't have access to. Right. Universities, database systems. You don't have access to that. I have partial access to it.
You have partial access to it.
Right.
Okay.
So so that's dark web. You can't access it. That's dark.
So if you can't access it, then how do you access it?
Well, there are other people who have access to it, but for general public, it is
Right.
dark.
Okay.
Okay, you can't go beyond that
Without-
that wall without having the right username and password.
Or doing something that's illegal.
Yeah.
Theoretically. Yeah.
Right. So that's dark web.
Okay.
Deep web, on the other hand, is the underground sort of anonymous underbelly of the internet.
Isn't that the entire internet these days? Everything's anonymous.
Well,
Everybody creates fake usernames and does all of that stuff.
yeah. But deep web
But
is
this is worse. You're saying
this is
theoretically,
worse.
yeah.
This is the really, really, really dark place.
So is this where personal information would be sold?
Yes. Yeah.
So in terms of the personal information that's sold, what would be... So if someone got access to your personal information, what type of information would they try and sell to get money? If they weren't going to hold you for ransom, which is obviously one way they'd do it, and they're just selling information to somebody on the deep web, what type of information would they sell?
So everything has value, right? So
Yep.
every piece of information about yourself, about you, has value. Whether it is your account details, your credentials, okay, your credentials like your username and passwords and things like that, or your account details, your accounts on Google, your accounts on Facebook, Twitter, or Netflix, or Spotify. Okay, all those things have value. Of course, they hold value to you because you have paid for some of those accounts, and some of those accounts you have valuable information like your Gmail and stuff. So they have value to you, but they have monetary value in the deep web. Right?
Okay.
So these are the things that can be sold.
In terms of the monetary value,
Yeah.
how much would stuff sell for?
So it depends on what kind of information it is.
So let's
Right.
say, for example, your Netflix account.
Right.
How much would that sell for?
So could be anything between $2 to $5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And something like bank account details or medical, medical information?
So different kinds of information has different value to it. And it also depends on which country you're from. Now, when the attackers are mostly looking to target people in the quote-unquote Western countries, okay? Because generally people in those countries are more well-off than other places.
Right, okay.
Okay. And that, even within the Western countries, there are different sort of value of the same information. So you get some account details or credit card details of a person, some random person in US. It will have a different value than somebody in Australia or New Zealand.
Right. So these people, they usually do this. What countries would they originate from? Sorry, I should rephrase that in terms of what countries do you think? I mean, we can't say anything for certain. But if when you trace it back to a source, where does it usually lead back to?
So
But obviously, every country will probably be guilty of this.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's certain countries that may have a higher percentage than others.
Yeah. So the thing is, we can't really trace everything from start to end, right? If we could do that, we would have much less cybercrime.
True that.
But we can trace we can see where our trace ends,
Okay.
right? And a lot of it originates from Eastern European countries.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the places.
So what? Russia?
Yeah, I would include Russia in that.
Would you? China?
Yes, some from China.
Yeah.
There are some from Eastern Asian countries as well. But what is important here is so at the end, the scammers or the attackers are looking to make money out of you.
Yes.
Right. And that's why they're doing all of this. So there has to be a way for them to, after doing this whole thing, after all their operations, to convert the money which is in the cyber realm to actual money that they can use.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so what they're trying to do is, so as long as it is in the cyber world with Deepweb and anonymous identities, you can be anywhere, right? But the point where you actually take that money and take that money in the cyber realm and you want to convert that into actual physical money, that point is really important because that is where you can actually get caught.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if I'm the attacker, a country which has very relaxed regulations around this would be the one I would prefer. Okay, not someplace like New Zealand or US or Australia, right? And that is why. So you would go to perhaps countries like Eastern Europe, or other countries, smaller countries, which will look the other way if you have some money.
Okay.
Tax havens, so places like that. Yeah.
Do you? Because obviously with the American election, it was, there's a lot of suggestion. I don't know if it's actually been confirmed or not that Russia tried to interfere in the election, but I'm not really interested in talking about the political side. But in terms of bots, AI bots, is that something that you guys have looked at in terms of how it can be manipulated and used to influence things?
No, we haven't looked at it yet, but we have had discussions on this yet.
Right.
So one of the things that, that people have started looking at, and some of the companies are not doing as well as they can, is a different kind of attack, cyber attack, where when I'm the attacker, I'm not actually. Generally, when you have an attacker, when there's an attack, there's an attacker, and the attacker is trying to make your system do something that it's not supposed to do, right? So something like, you've locked your house, and I'm trying to break into your house. So I'm just trying to your lock is not supposed to be opened by anybody else. But if I'm breaking into your house, I'm trying to open. I have a master key or whatever it is. I'm trying to break into your house and opening the lock. So your lock is not supposed to be opened by me, but I'm opening it. And most of the cyber attacks that we talk about are like that, right? So we're trying to make a technology do something that it's not supposed to do. Okay. But we're seeing a different kind of cyber attack where the attackers actually take advantage. The attackers don't make the technology do anything different, but just take advantage of the way the technology works. Okay. Which was the case with Facebook, where whoever it was, and what they did was they didn't try to break Facebook, right? So all they did was they created these bots.
Well, they just tried to use it.
Yeah, and the bots were doing exactly what anybody would do with Facebook, post stuff and things like that. But by using the functionality that Facebook was providing, they were influencing something else. So a different kind of attack where you are letting the system work the way it is working, but you're using it against them.
Right.
And so that's in general, we can think about all this new stuff, artificial intelligence or bot stuff, like in that way, where nobody is trying to break your technology. They're actually going to try and use what your technology does against you. So that's something that we've been talking about, but I haven't I can't say I've actually worked on it.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with the CIO. Was that CIO? CISO. That's the Chief Information Security Officer of a big company in US when they came over here.
Okay.
And they didn't. Surprisingly, they weren't actually doing anything about it.
Really?
Yeah.
They didn't care?
Well, they did care, but it's a hard problem to solve, first of all. And they had taken a lot of steps on the traditional cybersecurity that we think of, making sure that nobody steals passwords, nobody steals data, nobody breaks into the accounts and things like that. But they didn't consider the possibility of something like the Facebook attack, right? Or the Facebook influencing, where you actually take advantage of the way Facebook works and then use it to whatever you for doing whatever you want to do.
Well, I suppose you also any type of security firm or anything will need. Well, they have certain limited amount of resources in terms of where they can allocate. What they're going to be spending that money and time on. So
yeah,
I suppose that's something to consider.
That is true as well. Yeah. But what was surprising was that was around the time was it before the Christchurch attack. I can't. Perhaps it was before, but the whole Facebook thing, when everybody knows that Facebook has been used in such a manner, you would expect people to be more vigilant have taken steps.
Okay. Is there a before and after the Christchurch shooting in terms of what happened, in terms of what you focused on after that? I mean, has it changed anything in terms of what you do on your day-to-day job?
Well, it hasn't affected much of what we do on a day-to-day basis, because again, like I said, these are the things that we have talked about, but we haven't really looked at.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at some of the other stuff. But in general, yes. At two different people have talked about this at two different levels. One is, what can the governments do in and what can the technology companies do to prevent such things happening? But the fact remains that this is something like this is extremely hard to manage. You're talking about spreading something that we don't want people to see, or spreading fake information. It is not an easy thing to do. It is extremely hard. And so saying, hey, yes, there could have been things that Facebook could have done better, but saying, hey, you're not doing your job.
Which side of the fence are you on in terms of accessing information? So obviously, because the shooting is now, it's illegal to share it, and some people argue, no, you should be able to see what you want to see. Are you for it, or are you against it, or do you kind of see both sides of the argument? Because I don't think, I mean, I don't even know why people want to look at it anyway, but I think people are worried that by implementing this, it leads to other things being
that is the concern, right? While I wouldn't want to look at anything like that, and I wouldn't want it to spread, and people looking at it as well.
Well, I saw it and I didn't even want to see it.
Yeah. But then the question is, once you set a precedent, what's next? People are people are going to say, hey, something happened, and then you did that, and then something happens again, and when we again, curb a little bit of freedom, and then sort of a snowballing effect.
Yeah, well, I think
which
that's what people are worried
which
about.
is the
aren't
concern.
They they don't want restrictions.
Yes, but I completely am sort of. I know that there's no absolute freedom of expression, right?
No, well, there isn't.
There can't
I think
be.
that's a fake construct. That's kind of
Yeah, and
people just
some
believe.
people believe that yes, they have absolute freedom of expression, but they don't. As we have a government. It's not anarchy. If there was anarchy, we would have absolute freedom of expression. But
Yeah.
we have when you have a government taking care of its people in general, then you have to lose some of those freedoms.
Yeah. Last thing before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you about. We talked about this briefly in terms of deep fakes and the technology that it's being used for. I'm not sure if you're aware of what they've done in Snapchat now, where you can take a picture of yourself and it turns you into the opposite sex.
Yeah, I looked at some of that stuff on Facebook.
Have you done it to yourself?
No, I don't have Snapchat.
And people are using those pictures and then putting it on Tinder to, I think, just to troll, but it's scary in terms of where that can lead in terms of, because that's quite minuscule in terms of the power and who it affects, but stuff we discussed it in terms of the Mona Lisa being turned into an actual person, and how they're able to manipulate audio and make a person talk. So they did it with Ben Shapiro, where they took an AI was constructed basically, and it used it to construct a sentence that he would never say on some political stuff that he would never ever say. You can just kind of tell that it's not quite right in terms of the tones and the pitch.
Yeah.
But it's getting to a place where it's very, very scary. So you could theoretically have a president or a prime minister, and they say something that they didn't actually say. How would you even monitor that?
Yeah. So, no, you're absolutely right. It is very scary. And that is where the government and the laws come in.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that is really hard to, once it's out there, to curb through technology. And as technologists, as people who create technology, we would like to believe that technology has a solution to everything. But unfortunately, it doesn't, and that is where governments and laws come in. So that's one of the ways of countering something like that. By in terms of protection, we are always behind. Whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's laws, we're always playing catch up. And
I don't know why that is. I really need to talk to some government official or somebody high up the chain who can explain to me why it takes so long to implement certain things in terms of law, particularly when it comes to anything digital or technology based.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is, I guess people, when a law is created, it's not exactly set in stone, but it is something like that, and they don't want to get stuff wrong. And, and of course,
that's a valid argument. Yeah.
And of course, stuff in democracy always moves slow, so you have to factor that in as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of the advantages China has, doesn't it? It can just do whatever the heck it wants.
Yeah. So that's so some of the only solution to some of this stuff is actually have more stringent laws against and treating some. So for a long time, we actually did not have. Most places in the world did not have laws to deal with cybersecurity or cyber attacks, right?
Yeah.
So we were using in 2019, a lot of countries have now created laws which specifically deal with cyber abuse or cyber attacks and things like that, or cyber theft and things like that. But for a lot of time, there were no laws for that kind of stuff, right? So you will use laws that were created centuries ago, where, if say there was a theft, there was a law that told you how everything will be governed in case of a theft. Now, when you have a theft, you can define what exactly is the thing that got stolen, right? Once you have something that you possess, it gets stolen, you don't have the possession of it now, right? Now, those same laws were being applied to deal with cyber attacks or cyber theft, which is very different, right? If I steal your password, I have your password.
Yeah.
But you also have the password.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is not the same. This entity, which is your password, is not the same thing as me stealing something from you.
Yeah.
We use the word stealing and theft and things like that, but that's a completely different thing.
So if you had the ability to, I mean, who knows if this will ever happen, but if the government came to you, actually, have they ever come to you and said, how can we improve our security?
I've just taken on this role, so not yet.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to be involved in more conversations.
So would it be something you'd look at potentially in the future?
Yeah.
Presenting to them, hey, these are the issues. Perhaps you can implement some laws that limit this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So what was the question?
What's that? The question was, would you be willing to present that to the government, if any type of security that you think that they need to implement into law?
Yeah, so I'm not a law expert by any stretch of imagination.
But in terms of the stuff you see on a day-to-day
in terms
basis.
of how laws are or may be influenced by technology, or are influenced, yes, that is somewhere I would like to have my input at.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't really talk to anybody about actual laws.
Not at this stage, anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been good. I'll probably wrap up here. But hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Not a problem. I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
To you.
I like being educated on this stuff. And I hope all the viewers and listeners will enjoy it too. All right, so that's a wrap up, guys. Until next time. Thank you very much.